Infor Visual is a complete end-to-end solution that assists order-driven manufacturing companies. Engineer-to-order companies face some unique challenges, and Visual was designed to tackle those challenges. Let's take a look at some examples. One thing is the status of orders as they move through that entire life cycle. Tracking where something is in the process, tracking things like costs, activities, where are we with that completion, all the way through the entire life cycle. Let's take a look at a particular order. Here we see a customer order for Able Manufacturing, and I can see that there were several items ordered on this particular customer order. Here I can drill into anything I need to know about that order. I might look at documents that were attached, or notes that might have been taken, or activities, action items that are around this order. But let's take a look at that document life cycle. In other words, look at the full life cycle of this customer order. Here I can see that it was started with a quote, and that quote had some documents attached, and again, some activities and communications around that quote. It turned into that customer order that we were looking at. 3 work orders were created to support that customer order. We've shipped something, we've invoiced it, and we've even been paid. Unfortunately, we've also had a return RMA against that order. So I have that full life cycle of what happened. I can drill into any of these pieces that security allows me to and get additional detail if need be. I can do that from any point in this life cycle. In other words, I could be at invoicing and be able to look clear back to how it was quoted, or look deeper into how this was built. So anywhere along this line, I can see this same type of life cycle. Now, each order has its own life cycle, of course. So let's check out a different order. This one's for Clear Sky Industries. And I can see, not only those same things, I can see any changes and audits that were made over time, which might be important to an engineer-to-order company. But let's look at its life cycle. This order also started from a quote. It has a work order to support that sales order, but we've yet to ship or invoice. So let's go look. That makes me think that this is still in process. Now we're looking at that work order and how this order is intended to be made. At the very bottom, I can see this work order number 3000 to make 10 of this particular item. Layered in behind it are the materials that are needed. Those are on yellow folders. The operational steps that this is expected to take through my enterprise, and I can see how it's tracking through those different steps. Notice that there are completion meters, these dark bars across some of those folders. Well, that means I've issued this first material. I'm done with step 1, step 2. I'm partially done with step 3. I can see the steps that are yet to be finished, the materials that are yet to be used. I can even see where I stand on a couple of sub-assemblies, we call them legs, that support this particular build. So I can always see that status. I can tell exactly where I am at any point in time. So I'm able to track that completion, the activities against that. Now, we call this a product definition with the materials and operations. We're describing that product to visual and then tracking how it moves through. That product definition becomes the basis for material plans. I can see here that the materials that are required, all of these materials, I can see where we stand as far as getting those materials, if they're still due, if I have them on hand. If I don't have them on hand and don't have them on order, like my orange paint, I can order directly from here and purchase directly into this order, charging right to that order. I can also use this to drill into further and deeper material plans, going to our material planning window if need be. Material planning window, just in brief, is a complete supply and demand analysis for every part. So instead of seeing just what I need for the one order we were on, this one order, I can see all the orders that require this part. I can see all of the supply that's coming in, which allows me to order for more than one job or more than one project at a time, if that makes sense in your environment. This is also the basis for schedule, because each of these steps has time associated with it. So I can see that at the cutoff saw, I'm going to need a half an hour for setup. And then once that machine is set up, I can run 4 pieces an hour across it. So I know how much time is required at this particular resource. So that becomes the basis for schedule. So I know how this should move through my shop and when it should move through my shop. If I wanted to see all jobs, not just this job that are in my shop, I would go to another signature window for visual. This is the graphical scheduling board, scheduling window, where I can see each of my resources and the work that is scheduled to be in that resource. Each of those colored strips represents a different work order. And that the length of time that work order should be in that resource is indicated by the length of that colored strip. That allows me to easily see where I have available capacities to take on additional work and where I am a little overloaded and may need to increase my capacities. There are additional tools here we call the throughput window that gives us more details about what might my constraints and contentions or bottlenecks be. I also can see how that's impacting my customers. I can also see what I expect to get through the shop and what I've actually gotten through the shop on the basis of throughput. Let's go back to our product definition, or that work order, and look at a few other things. So basis for material plans, basis for schedule, it's also the basis for cost. Each of those elements that have cost associated with them, whether it's material cost, labor, burden, or those outside processes. So I can always compare what I expected something to cost to its actual costs as time goes on. The comparison is a variance. Visual is going to point out to me where I have unfavorable variances or where I need to be paying attention, and allow me to drill to as much detail as I need to be able to understand where those variances might be coming from. Here I can see on cutoff saw that I have quite a variance. Here are the labor entries for that cutoff saw. Now, labor is collected in visual in a variety of ways. It can be barcoding, it can be tablets and smartphones and paperless systems with touch devices. Here I have a couple of entries into that cutoff saw, and even some notes that there was a problem, that the machine went down. That might help me to understand that extra time that was spent here at that particular resource. So I understand my entire costs, my actual costs throughout the build. I'm not waiting until this job is done to analyze those variances. I'm able to analyze while that job is moving on. You might wonder how this information gets entered into the system. Well, it happens in a variety of ways. I can bring that in record by record. I can copy in from templates, copy from a previous job. I can bring information in from drawings, in from my CAD systems, which really takes me to the next topic that engineer-to-order companies are faced with. And that's the fact that they have design, they have engineers, they have design systems. CAD integration is important. Documents coming from those CAD systems attached where they make sense is important to engineer-to-order companies to end that redundancy of multiple systems and record keeping in multiple systems. The integration allows you to keep the record in one system, push it to the other system. Integrate those CAD drawings, pull in the bills of material. The interface will compare the current bill of material to what's in the CAD system, pointing out differences with colors and color coding, allowing me to push that information directly into visual. Another challenge with engineer-to-order companies is that change is constant. I need a Visual allows me to make changes anytime throughout a build. Here I am in the middle of this build. Let's assume that this particular item no longer requires painting. I can delete operations and materials. I can add operations and materials. I can change operations and materials. Now maybe this needs to change to a different part based on an engineering change. So I can make that change even in the middle of a build. Visual's very flexible and easy to use for engineer to order companies. Another challenge for engineer to order companies is that knowing what to focus on, what those important tasks and priorities are, and to be able to drill to be sure that those engineer to order jobs continue to be profitable as changes go on, as time goes on. User-specific dashboards and analytics drive my users to the information they need when they need it. For instance, down here at the bottom, I can see open tasks for this particular user. I can that user can drill into the metrics that they're to be following. We can see over time that that estimated actual costs have used to exceed estimated costs quite often, but we're getting better at that. If I want details, I can drill into each of those details. And of course, from those details, drill directly back to the source documents, like in this case, back to our customer order. So that allows me to ensure that my employees are focusing on the priorities and tasks that are important to be sure that the company remains profitable and that each order is maintaining the amount of margin and profitability that I want it to. Just to summarize, some of the tools that are here in Visual for engineer to order companies are that real-time status and tracking of an order all the way through its entire life cycle, tracking those costs and activities and communications and the completion of each job, of each order. Also, bringing in that CAD integration and the ability to have document attachments and ending the redundancy of entering into two separate systems, having those systems talk to each other, is important to engineer to order companies. And also following those inevitable changes in that environment, the collaboration and coordination and communication of changes to be sure that we are reducing rework costs by building to the right revision, building to that right design every time. And finally, being able to ensure that tasks and priorities are properly communicated, allowing employees to focus on the right things at the right time. Visual is designed to meet the challenges of engineer to order companies, allowing you to bring order to your orders, make more confident decisions, and solve problems faster to get those great results.